Hello, I'm Mike, and welcome to this part of my channel where I chat about things that I've been asked about physics and about the physics degree. In this case, I'm going to be talking a bit about what is physics with astrophysics as a course. You see, this is the one I did. I did a course of physics with astrophysics. And the question that I got from quite a few people in my family is, well, what's the difference between that and physics, and why, in the end, did I go for it? So, to give you the difference, physics degrees with something are generally pretty similar, but there will be a few differences in the courses taken and the experiments done. So, physics degree is composed of a whole load of courses, usually, so sort of series of lectures with an exam at the end, or perhaps slightly different if they're based on programming or something like that. They might have more series of lectures and then do these tasks, or maybe series of lectures and do sort of an essay if it's a more longer writing one, but they're quite rare in physics. So it's that's your courses. And then you've got your experimental work. You have to do a certain amount of practical work each year in your physics degree. There's exceptions for that if you're doing what's called physics with theoretical, which is more maths and course based and less practical. But that's the bulk of your degree. Courses, experiment. And what physics with astrophysics does is it forces you to do particular courses which are related to astrophysics. So there might be, here's a course which is optional for everyone else, but you have to do it. And that's not to say you do an extra course, by the way. Optional courses work by you have a number of courses that you have to do and a number that are optional, but you have to pick a certain amount of optional courses. So it just means you get a bit less choice there. You have to pick the astro option amongst those options, but you get priority to be on that course if there's a limited number of people. You get priority for experiments as well, and that's the big thing. When you're doing your lab, you often don't get as much choice in which experiments you do, or if you do, there's very limited places for each experiment, and sort of because it's equipment that you need to use, or only one group use one bit of equipment at a time usually. And what physics with astrophysics does is it puts you in the priority for doing astrophysics based experiments in some cases. Altogether then, this means that you're doing a degree that still has the base chunk of the physics degree. You're still going to learn the major things that a physicist has to learn. It is just a difference between what options you do. On the one hand, this can be seen as quite a pain if you suddenly find out in the last year of your degree that you're really fascinated by, say, nuclear physics. Okay, or or in any general way, sort of physics of energy generation. You now have to either move yourself to a straight physics course quite late in your degree, which can be quite frustrating. There's a bit of bureaucracy involved, or try and work that in with having to do the mandatory amount of astrophysics work. But if you know that astrophysics is the area that you're really interested in, then you have been given priority for a lot of the best bits of astrophysics, really, the bits that people want to do. So basically all my favourite bits of physics lab were astrophysics experiments that I might not have been doing if I hadn't done a particular physics with astrophysics course. There was one called about using a telescope to find sort of properties of the sun, because you were using a telescope that tracked what's called the H-alpha line. And that was a beautiful experiment, mainly because we just sat on the roof of the building and chilled out, and it was really nice and sunny. Okay, that's the more sort of daft one, rather than I really enjoyed the physics. But it was there. The main thing for sort of experiments I really enjoyed for the experimental part was there was one where we got to control and set up or not set up, but control and sort of give tasks to a fairly sizable radio telescope, which in terms of sort of what I wanted to get into science for, that's lovely. That's what I liked. So it's that balance. If you really know that astrophysics is the bit that you're interested in, then you get priority for that sort of thing. But you lose some of the ability to sort of check around and see. But anyway, that's as best as I can put it, physics with astrophysics. And actually, there's one last thing that I should say before I go, which is that it is still a physics degree. I mean, you can't tell an employer what to think, but generally I think most of them will get the point that I've still done a physics degree. It may be with something else, but it's not like this is going to be regularly seen as less than just doing physics. I think that's useful to say. But anyway, now that's all that I wanted to say about it. Bye.